Welcome to another episode of the Wandering Watercolor. Today we are painting the 10th and final page of the Ocean Life watercolor coloring book. Let's get started. Okay, so this is the 10th and final page, and as you can tell, it's going to be a very complicated image. Now, I anticipate that this one might take 30 to 40 minutes, if not longer. If you do need to stop at any point, you can always come back to it, so don't worry about that. And as always, you want to have a place to mix your colors, like a little porcelain dish. This is just a soap dish. Rag or a paper towel. Brush, any brush works. On the side I have my cup of water, or a jar of water I should say. And whatever palette you have will work. This is the one that I use. I will have all the details for my custom colors that I use in the description. But whatever you have will work just fine. And so we'll start with just getting red, just straight red. That's all we need. And all palettes come with red, because obviously it's one of the primary colors. And oh, I also forgot, if you can have like a little piece of paper on the side, it can just be regular paper. It doesn't have to be anything special. Just because it helps to just try out colors. What I'm doing now is I'm adding a lot of water because I do want to mix up a good amount, because we have a lot of surface area that we need to cover. And I'm adding a lot of water because I don't want it to be too opaque. I want it to be a little more transparent. It'll make it lighter. That way, when we add a second and a third coat, we can add those shadows. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll start off here, just covering all that in. Now, where the tentacles and the suction cups are, we're going to leave that. We're not going to put any of this color in there. And you can see I'm just carefully going around, trying to make sure I don't overlap, but if I do, it's not a very big deal. And I'm just layering all that in like that. And remember, you don't have to rush. I know I have a tendency to do things quickly. I also have a tendency to mess up. Who knew? Okay. We'll do it there. Just this part. And I'm just avoiding the eye. But you can tell, all I'm doing here is, this is called a flat wash. This is basically where you're blocking in colors so that you know the base color of the different objects and how to build off of that. There are more advanced techniques where you mix colors as you're putting in washes, but I find whenever there's an object that I'm painting that's too complicated, this is the best way to just kind of layer it in, because you can always add blended colors and layers on top, but once you have that base layer in and it's well set and you know exactly what goes where, it creates so much ease going forward in the painting process. Okay. And then down here. See, I got a little bit out of the line there, but that's fine. Just trying to use the very tip of the brush for the finer details. Sometimes I mess up though. It's not the end of the world. Okay, we have all that set in there. Next, we want to get some purple. And if you don't have purple in your palette, you just want to get some blue and red, and then just kind of experiment mixing them in different ratios. That way you can see. See, with mine I'm going to get a little bit of red, because I think this one is too much on the blue side. A little bit of red. There we go. A little more water. Okay. And now what I'm filling in here is the underneath of the tentacles, but I'm avoiding all the suction cups. And I'm going very slowly with just the very tip of the brush. But keep in mind, as I said earlier, if you mess up, it's not a big deal. In this image, there's a lot of little meticulous details. I may end up fast forwarding through some of them just because once you see me do a little bit of it, you get the idea. Okay, we have all of that in there. I'm gonna rinse my brush. And then what we want to do is, well, honestly, actually, I'll mix up a darker color for a darker red color. That's for the shadows. The way that we'll do that is we'll add a little bit of brown. And then we will add a little bit of purple. And you can see how this, yeah, that's a good shadow color. I may want to add just a little more red. Red is hard because it's such an overpowering color. So when you add a little bit, it really changes the composition. But that's about the color that we're looking for. And we can start laying it in for the shadows. So inside of this one, I'm going to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Over here also. Like that. Definitely back here. I'm gonna layer that in. And then going all the way up here and around like that. And over here, we kind of want to create a little bit of a fold. There we go. Looks good. And then back here, we'll go in and around. And right here. I'm just creating the shadow. Because you always want to keep in mind the light is from the top, so you're trying to kind of figure out where the shadow will be. Just to kind of outline where the tentacle, and then in the back here. Okay, so I think that's all the shadows that we need for the red part. I'm gonna rinse off my brush. And now we can work on mixing up the shadow color for the purple part. For this one, we will want to get a little bit of blue. And you can see that's a very dark purple right there. Yeah, that's perfect. That may be a little bit too dark, but always keep in mind that watercolors dry lighter, so this will be fine. Okay, so the way we'll do this one is it's a little more tricky. You kind of want to, it's almost like you want to show the texture of the bumps. And the way we do that, well, you could just watch me do it and then proceed. So I'm going in next to the outline that we just made. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of make the line a little wavy, and maybe a little bit in between here and there, like that. And then going in the back here. You know, it's kind of like a fold, but then because there's the bumps where the tentacles are kind of emerging from, or the suction cups, I should say, it's also, you just want to add a little bit of variability in there just because it makes it more interesting to look at. And it also kind of emphasizes the complexity of the creature. That one's fine because it's further away, it's less detail, so I'm fine with that. And then I'm gonna go over here and fill in all of this back here. And just kind of outline, and then just continue to add those kind of like a little bit of waves and a little bit of, like, you can see that these markings with the darker purple, I'm not trying to make them look perfect, which actually helps make it look more organic, a little more chaotic. You can see a little bit of a wave. And in between here, and the outer part, right there. Okay. And all of that. And once it gets to all the way back here, we're just going to cover that in. Just basically using shadow to show distance. And then going back in here, more wavy, more sporadic. Kind of do a line like this. And then going in like that. There we go. Okay, that all looks good. So if you step back for a moment, you see how much form we've created just by using the darker colors. Actually, I'm going to add a little bit more here. And also, stepping back often helps you kind of notice little things like that, like somewhere where you may have missed. Okay, now that we have that, the next thing we want to do is there are spots. So like there's these little spots that on the red part, and the way that we'll make them is we're gonna mix these two a little bit because we do want a darker red. So now we had the dark red for the shadow. Now we want an even darker red, and we'll do that by adding a little more purple, a little more red. So we're going to mix it up so that there's more paint, less water, which will make it more opaque, as well as we will make the color itself darker by adding more purple. And we need more red though. I made it too purple. Sorry, we need more red. Let's see. Okay, so that's perfect. So the way we want to add a lot of variability in the size of the spots that we're making. So we'll start by just putting a little bit of right here, just a little bit of spot here and there, and then every now and then make like a bigger one, and then a little one. You can even just kind of like tap the brush here and there. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just make some of the spots, just try to add variation. You don't want them all to be the same size. You want some of them to be bigger, some of them to be smaller. On the tentacles, you're aiming for more small spots. Like back here, we'll do a big one over here in the shadow, and then the rest will kind of make them smaller, medium. Just like very little bit showing. You want it to look a little sporadic. Like that. More little ones back here. Just a little tap. Just a little tap here and there. And then when you get more towards the back here, you want to make some bigger ones. Show more variability. That. kind of play around with it a little bit. If you see that it looks like it's, if you step back and they look like they're, all of them are too uniform or too consistent looking, and then go back in and just make some of them bigger. Like back here, I'm going to add bigger spots. Like that. Perfect. Okay, that looks great. I'm very happy with how that looks. And then the next part is we're going to color in the suction cups. For that, what we want to do is if you have like a light beige color in your palette, you can use that, kind of like the one that I have, or you can mix it up by using, you can grab some brown, and then you can grab a little bit of yellow, and rinse off your brush, and grab a little bit of red. I put too much red. And thin it out with more water. A little bit more yellow. It's kind of like the same, it's basically the same procedure that I would use to mix up a skin tone. But because there's a lot of like playing around with it just to see, like, there's a lot of going back and forth. That's why I just opted in my palette, I just opted in to have like the already pre-mixed color, just because I often need to work quicker. But that's basically the color that you would use. It's a mixture of a little bit of brown, some red, yellow, and then just playing around with the amounts in each of them. So yeah, that's really it. And if it looks too much either one way or another, it's not a big deal. But yeah, I'm just gonna go in, color that in, just like that. This part is probably one of the easiest in this painting, because you're just literally just filling it in. You're literally just coloring it in. I'll probably fast forward through this part also. Okay, we have all that in. Might pick up a little bit of that color. Make it lighter. Okay. So the next thing to mix up, we're pretty much done with the octopus itself. The next thing to start mixing up is the background colors. And the first thing being is this is just like a rock that he's climbing, and as I'm sure you know by now, my favorite way to mix gray is just brown and blue. And you definitely need more blue than brown because it's underwater, so everything kind of tends to shift towards a blue a little bit. Here we go. Okay, so this is good. And then here on the bottom, what I'm doing is I'm kind of separating it a little bit. I'm making a lighter mix, which has more water. Because I want it to be lighter. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill that in just all around here. And as I get further away towards the edges, I'm just gonna rub it into the paper to show that texture. Otherwise, I'm basically just doing a flat wash just to cover in the areas. Same down here. As always, if you go in a little bit, if you overlap, it's okay. It's not a big deal. And back here, we're almost done with this part. Just kind of pulling it out, creating that texture. Okay. And rinse my brush. And we're gonna let this dry. While that's drying, I'm gonna grab a little bit of blue. And then I'm just gonna fill in this part carefully. And then pull it out of there. And just kind of, same thing, rub it against the paper. Create those nice textured gradations. And we are almost done. The last thing that we need to do is just pick up some of that darker color that we mixed up here and go underneath and then just create shadows. So like for example, for this tentacle, I'm just going to create a shadow going like this. There we go, just like that. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And then this one, kind of like this. Over here. And definitely up here. And over here. Going in here. You see, I'm just kind of adding shadow underneath. And it immediately gives it more dimension. It immediately makes it look like it's in a 3D environment as opposed to just a flat image. And rinse my brush. And step back and take a look at it. Oh, see, I forgot a little bit over here. See, that's why it's so important to step back. You can always just spot things. A little bit right here and right here. And step back again. Okay, yeah, we're done with that one. That one looks great. Okay, so that was the 10th and final page, probably the most complicated out of all the pages in this book. If you are interested in acquiring the book, I'll have a link for it in the description. And if you have questions, just leave a comment or send me a message. I will also have all of the tools and supplies that I use. I'll also put those in the description for you to check out. And with that, I will see you next time.